Welcome back to my little channel. Now obviously we all know that there's going to be a shitstorm of news because Donald Trump said he would run for re-election. Now not a lot of people are surprised by that because, let's be honest, most presidents did run for re-election and he's actually not doing that bad. I mean, yeah, the man's still an oaf, but he's not doing that bad after all. Unemployment numbers down, production numbers up, and he did find the wisdom not to attack Iran, even though everyone told him to do so. Which is kind of funny because first they complain that he is about to, and then they complain that he didn't. So, yeah, it's always fun to follow the media, I guess. And one of my interests, I think interest is a good word, one of the people I do follow because of the brilliant insight this person gives is Kate Smurthwaite. It's always fun to make a Kate Smurthwaite video because she is so incredibly... let's not swear, shall we? Anyway, this is what she had to say, and let's have some fun with it.
So I thought today I'd add something to my fuck it list. And for the uninitiated, a fuck it list is like the opposite of a bucket list. So a bucket list is a list of things that you want to experience before you die. And a fuck it list is a list of things that you never want to experience again. And the thing that I want to put on this list today is Donald Trump's re-election campaign.
Yes, I know, I sped it up a bit. That's not how she usually sounds. I didn't speed her up to make her sound silly. I mean, she's doing a great job for that all by herself. I sped it up because... speed. And let's be honest, and I might be a little bit pedantic here, but you experienced Donald Trump winning a re-election once already? Or did you mean that he won an election and you don't want him to win the re-election? But on the other side, who cares what you want? You have no influence. It's the American president, not the English. So why are you trying to interfere? Are you Russian? Is this you trying to interfere in the American... Yeah, no, that's just silly. Never mind, let's continue.
I mean, it's terrifying, isn't it? The very idea that we're even talking about a longer term of office for this horrific administration, but...
Yeah, terrible president. First American president who was pro-gay marriage, even before he got elected into office. First American president who has lowered unemployment for every category of American society... And the first American president who actually didn't start a war. Now, the last thing may still change, let's be honest. But so far, he didn't attack Iran, even though everyone keeps pointing towards Iran for the attack on an oil tanker. And he didn't take the bite. He actually said, okay, they also attacked a drone of America, and America could... counter that attack on the drone, and basically he said how many people will die, and then they said, well, about 100, 150, and then Donald Trump said, over a drone? That seems a little bit unreasonable, let's not. And now obviously everyone is falling over the fact that he didn't attack Iran. It's amazing.
The launch happened a couple of days ago. Donald Trump started out by laying into his Democratic opponents for being driven, he said, by hatred, prejudice and rage, said the blustering, sweaty white supremacist.
Attacking him over something he said and proving him right in the very same sentence. Kate, I'm serious. You outdone yourself, girl. Well done. You probably don't realise it, do you?
I think maybe hatred, prejudice and rage is just his version of eat, pray, love. He's like got them in sort of IKEA lettering above the fireplace.
I'm pretty sure you don't recognise it, but that's a great example of projection. Well done again, Kate.
He then went on to say what his two big pledges were. He promised that if he was re-elected, he would put an American astronaut on Mars and find a cure for AIDS.
Well, the idea with those kind of pledges are to see whether it is at all feasible and doable. Let's be honest, When they put a man on the moon, they didn't put a man on the moon because it would be easy. They put a man on the moon because it was a challenge. So the whole Mars thing being a challenge, yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. And let's be honest, if you can have one presidential hopeful claiming that he will eradicate cancer, why can't you have another presidential hopeful who will say, you know what, let's try to get rid of AIDS? Seems both equally noble a goal, I guess.
And this is absolutely encapsulates the problem with this individual, because those are not thought out, considered policies with some sort of strategy behind them. They are just the sort of things that 4-year-olds say in the playground when you ask them what they want to be when they grow up. Like, I want to make ice cream and be taller than mummy. They're not considered political pledges. So
Trump isn't the first to set a goal in space that seems well beyond our reach. He'll probably not be the last either, or at least I hope not, because there's something important in always trying to reach for the stars. But let's hear what the previous president that made such a bold leap had to say. And then maybe you will be humbled. But then again, Kate Smurthwaite, she won't be humbled. She's a woman.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too. If we shall send to the moon 240,000 miles away from the control station in Houston, a giant rocket more than 300 feet tall, the length of this football field, made of new metal alloys, some of which have not yet been invented, capable of standing heat and stresses several times more than have ever been experienced, fitted together with a precision better than the finest watch, carrying all the equipment needed for propulsion, guidance, control, communications, food, and survival on an untried mission to an unknown celestial body, and then return it safely to Earth, re-entering the atmosphere at speeds of over 25,000 miles per hour, causing heat about half that on the temperature of the sun, almost as hot as it is here today, and do all this, and do all this, and do it right, and do it first before this decade is out, then we must be bold.
Yeah, I didn't want to deny you all this video clip because, let's be honest, it's a defining moment in the Western world's history. But because of this, I know that the video I'm making responding to Kate Smurthwaite will be far longer than I had anticipated. Never mind, let's soldier on, shall we?
first of all, putting an astronaut on Mars, this is achievable. We know how to do it. It would cost about $500 billion by most estimates. So where's that money coming from? What programs are being defunded? Who is being taxed more? How does this money magically appear?
Well, that's an interesting question. Where is the money coming from? Because it's going to cost $1 trillion for a country that's nearly 20 trillion in debt. I'm not quite sure if $1 trillion is really that much of an issue. It probably is, though. It should be. I agree with you there. So let's start cutting programs for people who are not American but still receive money in America. So basically welfare for the illegals. Let's get away with that one. Let's take some of that money out of the military budget because, Space Force and all that. I think combining those two things will probably create a huge sum of money. Now, let's give a few $1 billion to Trump so he can build his wall. So protecting the border is going to be easier. So it's easier not to spend too much money on the welfare of illegals. Wow. Well, thank you, Kate. You just gave us a great reason why we, again, should build that wall. Well, not you, obviously, not me, but America. Though, in all fairness, I would think Europe should return to Fort Europa too, but that's a completely different story. So, if we combine the money saved whilst not spending it on illegal immigrants and the money saved, no, not saved, reallocated from the defense budget, because Space Force, I think we can actually manage that 1 trillion. I seriously do.
That doesn't make sense. Secondly, the main reason that the various sort of projects that have been started with this goal in mind haven't gone ahead is because of the risk to the individual or individuals that we send to Mars. So it's about 200 days, the journey, depending on the alignment of the planet at the time that you launch it. And all the evidence suggests that leaving people in sort of an isolated situation, in a confined space for an extended period of time, causes serious mental health problems. If you don't believe that it is absolutely a terrifying thing to do, just watch Big Brother, any episode, and you'll realise that after about a week enclosed in a confined space, people will start shouting racist things at each other and having unprotected sex in a hot tub.
You know, the thing is, you are, in a way, correct, and at the same time, stupidly ignorant. Now, let's start with the correct part. Yes, there are lots of risks combining this and cabin fever, as it's commonly known, is a real thing. Though you don't have to watch Big Brother to learn about it. Did you know, by the way, that we have an international space station where people can be for a longer time? Now, I'm not quite sure. The longest mission that has been there, as far as I can remember, is a little bit less than 300 days, but on average they score around 150 days. So yeah, longer, more problematic, absolutely true, but it seems doable. But the risk to the crew, you're completely right. The risks are amazing. I mean, I can't even fathom the amount of risks they have. We actually do not know some of the stuff they may encounter. So, is that problematic? Pretty much. I mean, let's be honest. So far we've only been to the moon, and going to Mars, well, I mean, the moon is basically tipping a toe in the water compared to going to Mars. I mean, going to Mars is like swimming all the way out into the ocean and see what's out there. So there is, I completely agree with you, there's a huge risk coming with it. And I don't consider myself to be one of the astronauts that would try. And at the same time, I'm 100% sure that there are people that, even though it might kill them, want to volunteer. Should they not have a chance? Anyway, rambling.
It's pretty clearly evidenced. On top of that, there's the physical health issues. The journey from the Earth to Mars would expose an individual to about 15 times what is considered a dangerous level of radiation.
Yes, there are going to be risks for the astronauts. Radiation not being the biggest one, by the way.
So, presumably you would hope to get from this mission the sort of feel-good moment of somebody stepping off of a craft and planting an American flag and it being televised and, waving to people back home and all that kind of stuff. Because there's no point from a scientific point of view. From a scientific point of view, we can learn everything that we want to learn by sending an unmanned craft to take samples, photographs, perform experiments. All of that stuff can be done without putting human lives at risk.
Yeah, you're somewhat right when you say, we can do a lot with unmanned missions when it comes to Mars exploring and all that. But you're completely wrong when you say, all we can get out of it is a feel-good moment and a guy planting a flag. Or a woman, mind you, there are female astronauts. The reality of the thing is that, as you said yourself, there are lots of challenges to be confronted before men can actually get to Mars. And the radiation shield, for example, that's going to take a lot of work, I assume. So this will undoubtedly cause a boost in our technological advancement, something like that. Sounds nice. But there are obviously a lot of other hurdles that need to be taken. And by taking these hurdles, we are advancing our knowledge, something we can't merely do with unmanned flight.
And you wouldn't even get that feel-good moment. What you'd get is somebody exhausted, shattered, miserable as all hell, crawling off of a craft, going, one small step for man. Why are we doing this? This is awful. Please take me home. I feel like I'm dying.
See, it's about the achievement, and that's something you don't want to recognize. So yeah, of course they're going to be tired and all that. It's kind of like someone being at the end of the Tour de France, being tired, but still happy that they won, but barely able to stand. Stuff like that. It's how achievements are made. They go against the things that most people would do because most people wouldn't go to Mars. As I said, I wouldn't. But I have the utmost respect for the person who's going to try.
So it's a terrible idea.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry then, Donald Trump. Scrap the whole Mars idea because Kate Smurthwaite thinks it's a terrible idea. And obviously, how could we be so stupid? I mean, Kate Smurthwaite. She thinks it's a terrible idea. Scrap it. It's done. Done and dusted. Or let's ignore her.
And then secondly, he wants to find a cure for AIDS, which suggests that he doesn't understand about the medical condition and about the current state of medical knowledge and what's going on around HIV and AIDS. And I'm not a doctor, but even I know this, right? HIV is no longer considered a life-ending condition. It's a long-term manageable condition these days. As long as people have access to the right drugs, it's considered totally manageable. And if it's being correctly managed with the right drugs, people who have HIV are not at risk of transmitting it on to other people. You can also be vaccinated against it if you think you are at risk by taking precautionary drugs that prevent you being at risk of it. And also, if you think you have been exposed, you can go very quickly to a medical centre and get drugs that will prevent it from you from catching it. So we actually already have the solution to HIV, manage it for those people who've got it and prevent it spreading. We could absolutely wipe that illness out in a generation.
Damn, so much to unpack in such little time. Okay, first off, is HIV curable? At this point in time, no. So would it be a good thing if we could cure it? Yes. Is it treatable? Well, it's manageable. You keep saying the word manageable as if it's a good thing. Now let me tell you this. Manageable means that you need to take medication for the rest of your life. Personally, that's not the same as a cure. I'd rather have a cure than a treatment. Secondly, when you have this treatment, it doesn't mean you can no longer spread HIV, because you can. Thirdly, there is no vaccine against HIV. Once you may have been infected, they can give you a bunch of medications to try and prevent your body from catching HIV, but there is no vaccine. And once you have HIV, you're stuck to treatment.
If these drugs were widely available and affordable, and the reason they're not is because of Donald Trump protecting the pharmaceutical companies and because of global inequality driven by runaway capitalism promoted by Donald Trump.
No, the prices have gone up because of protectionism, not just because of Donald Trump, though I haven't seen Donald Trump do anything against it, I'll grant you that. But it's been going on for the longest time. This is why India is able to make the HIV cocktail for about $13, where in America it's about 13,000. So yeah, there are some problems there. I'm not quite sure why you blame capitalism for this, or why you blame Donald Trump for this, because what it is protectionism, which isn't capitalism, and politics. And yeah, okay, Trump is a politician, but then which of the other politicians do you think will remedy the situation? Because it's been going on for the longest time. I'm not even blaming Obama for this one, because it's way older than that. But you like to blame Trump for it. Why? And no matter what, treatment, even if it is affordable, is still treatment. Wouldn't you rather have a cure, even if you don't have to pay for your treatment at all? Because it still takes time. It still makes you, well, ostracized, different, because you need to take extra medication just to have a normal life? No matter what normal means.
There is also some evidence that some people have been cured of HIV, and those are people who've had HIV, and then they've gone on to develop leukemia, and the treatment for leukemia has so aggressively wiped out their immune system, and they've had a bone marrow transplant, and that appears to have effectively gotten rid of the disease. But the thing is that you would never choose that option, because the treatment that wipes out your immune system is so dangerous. I mean, there's a serious risk of dying from it anyway, and has so many long-term side effects that even if that was an effective cure for HIV, and we don't really know yet whether it is or not, you still wouldn't choose it. You would choose the long-term management situation.
Or, and I'm just putting it out there, you find a different cure. Because that you could do it in one way doesn't mean that that's the way it needs to be done. If there's a huge risk to it, then yeah, of course, no one's going to take that one. If I'm going to say, okay, I have to inject myself for the rest of my life or I might die, then those injections might not seem like that big of a deal. But the question is not whether I inject myself or I die. No. The question is whether I have to inject myself for the rest of my life or I can get cured in a normal fashion. And basically what he's saying is, let's try to get the cured in a normal fashion thing on the table, shall we? It's almost as if you're pro-HIV.
So all of this shows that he doesn't even really understand he hasn't spoken to medical professionals or scientific researchers about whether this is a viable, achievable goal. He's just waving a wet, pokey little finger in the air and saying things that he thinks sound cool.
Or, I'm just putting it out there, these are things he actually hopes to achieve. And in all fairness, why not? Are you against people curing HIV? Are you against people reaching Mars? Why? Do you think it's bad for the world to reach Mars? Do you think it's bad for the world to have a cure for HIV/AIDS? Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? Well, for now, this is where I'm going to stop with this video. I mean, she continues on with a few more personal attacks, but not based on trying to cure HIV or going to Mars and any of the really big things. No, this time it's more about, well, he deleted emails, or no, he didn't delete emails, he deleted tweets, and he's a bad person, and sexual innuendo with his daughter, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you know, Kate, I almost wanted to say you should stick to comedy, but at the same time, though, the good thing is you are famous, and Sky News still seems to want to pay you money for your opinion. So, I mean, you've got that going. But I think you need to reconsider your pro-HIV stance. Because I'm not quite sure, but people might find it somewhat insulting that you're okay with HIV. That you think that it's better for them to just be treated for the rest of their life instead of actually finding a cure. And I'm not saying Donald Trump will, because let's be honest, if a cure is being found, even during the presidency of Donald Trump, it's not Donald Trump that found it. I mean, he merely set aside money for it, but scientists will have found it. Yeah, let's be honest. But there's this old joke that if Donald Trump would speak out in favor of oxygen, left-wing extremists would swear off oxygen. Unfortunately, he hasn't, so we don't know if it's true. I think you should give it a try. What about you? Anyway, this is where I'm going to call it quits. I mean, it's a long one, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And feel free to point out where I'm making mistakes. I'm always open for criticism. Like, share, and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Drop a line. I'm curious what you think. And I hope to see you all next time.